Hello everybody, it's Kate here for our Spotfire session today. I hope you get to see this video along your journeys, and I hope that you had a wonderful weekend. So today I wanted to talk to you about exit interviews. I think they're a really interesting concept, and I think they're incredibly valuable, or I think they can be incredibly valuable. I think they're probably not utilised enough, and there's probably because we don't want to hear information from people that might want to kick the door on the way out. So as somebody who has left various employment but also had a child, where we removed a child from a school back in the day when I had children at school, and she was a long time ago, probably about 10 years ago, that we removed this child from her school. And when we did that, we were very disappointed in the school at that time, and we were not offered an exit interview. And I was really disappointed because I wanted to have an opportunity to sit down and explain the reasons why we were disappointed, because I wanted the school to improve. But they didn't offer us that, and when they didn't offer the exit interview, I didn't see the point in then creating a meeting to tell them something if they didn't appear to be interested in finding out why we didn't want to stay at the school. So I think the same happens in employment. A director of a company that I know takes every single decision by somebody to resign as a personal affront on them, and they definitely don't want to have an exit interview because they don't want to hear the feedback that they might be part of the problem and the reason why people are leaving. And so the disappointment that this person feels is so significant that they take it very personally when someone leaves, and they basically have that sort of "you're dead to me" approach to any former employees, which is incredibly disappointing, because if as leaders we can't address our behaviour or make changes to make it better for people to work with us, then we're missing out on some exit interviews for anybody that's choosing to leave your place of employment. One would hope that when people leave, they're doing it because they're going to a better opportunity or something really exciting is happening in their life, and that's the reason why they've had to leave. But as we know, many or most people choose to leave employment because they don't like their circumstances and they are having difficulties expressing themselves, or they're disappointed or under-challenged, or a whole range of different things. And so I would think that there's a huge benefit in having an exit interview, but I think you have to be extremely careful about the way in which you do this, because you don't want it to just be a kick the door on the way out exercise, because that's of little value to the organisation and to them. They might feel better in the moment, but in the long term it might damage reputations and might not be great for the person leaving either. And the damage is done. So if they're leaving and they weren't happy, and then they kick the door on the way out because they finally feel that it's safe to speak up, then you might actually hold that against them in the long run, and it might not be a great experience. So I think you have to think very carefully about how you set up an exit interview so that you can make the most of this situation. If you've got, Leanne, you've just joined us. If you've got any comments on exit interviews, I know that this is something that you understand a little bit about, and you've done some research into, so I'd be keen to hear if you've got anything that you wanted to say with respect to exit interviews. But I do think they need to be carefully thought through so that it's a positive experience for everybody. And sometimes learning something about ourselves is a positive experience, even if we think that it's an attack on us. To find out how people are responding to the way we are managing and leading them can be incredibly important and fruitful. So I think that when you call it an exit interview, you set it up so that that person can bring a support person if they want to, so that if you have two people interviewing, you've got two people that they're talking to. I think that if you do want to speak up and say something, it's important that you feel safe to do so, and sometimes having a support person there can just give you enough courage to say what you need to say in that moment, but also it helps you regulate yourself in that moment so that you don't end up unintentionally saying things that you wished you hadn't said, because I think that you have to monitor that. And I think that it's important to have some questions that you would like that person to answer, and to put that to the person before you have the exit interview. So give them some time to think about the type of questions that you want answers to, and then give them an opportunity to tell you anything else that they would like to be able to tell you. I think that it's crucial that people are not set up. This is not an opportunity to throw somebody under a bus or to then attack them. Or if somebody says that I was really struggling with the way in which the organisation managed this situation, if an employer then was to come back, but your performance wasn't up to scratch, that type of thing can happen in that moment. And I think that would be particularly unhelpful and damaging to everybody's relationships. Anybody leaving your place of employment has the potential to be a barrier for your organisation. So even if it doesn't work out well, if you can let somebody go and give them an opportunity to speak up, and if you can part on good terms, then they're not going to go and kick the tyres to the public outside of the organisation in the same way that if they think that they've been let go and that you didn't respect them and it wasn't a supportive environment when you left. So I think you have to think very carefully about this, and this is why I think exit interviews are so important, because it gives you the opportunity to nurture that relationship to the very end, even if things didn't work out very well. It's going to happen all of the time. The other day I saw an article by Gary Vaynerchuk, who I think can be completely over the top at times, but he said something which was really profound, and he said that if somebody's work performance is not up to scratch, it's on you as the leader that they're not working as well as they could be. And it could be that you haven't provided enough training, there's poor communication, you've hired the wrong person for the wrong job, a whole range of different things. And I think that if any of those things have happened and we haven't supported that person in their employment and then we decide to let them go, then it's on us to make sure that transition is as supportive as possible. Gary V then goes on to say that basically he has often helped people, particularly when they're not in the right job and it's not a good fit. He has helped them find other employment, and he then follows them up and checks that they're okay in their new employment, because he wants that person to be successful. And if they're not going to be successful in his media company, then maybe they're going to be more successful somewhere else in a different environment. If we look after people, it is so much easier to then support everybody in the circumstances. When we have a dispute, when we're in conflict, when we can't agree and we don't look after people, then chances are that we're going to get a lot more vengeance, we're going to get a lot more of people kicking tyres, we're going to have people's reputations sullied by the words that they say or the things that we say about other people. I think if somebody's leaving your employment, look after them. Make it as positive an experience as it can possibly be, knowing that it's not likely to be a really happy, joyful experience unless that person's leaving for really positive reasons, because they have other opportunities, or they're having a baby, or they're going to move overseas or interstate and all of that. I think that's right, Leanne. I think that everyone does feel better when people feel validated. I say this over and over again, I don't think anybody turns up to work to do a bad job. And if it's not working out for you in that employment, it doesn't mean that you're not doing a good job. There's a whole range of reasons why that's not working out. And we need to to acknowledge that. And I think we need to say goodbye. I think that every time when a person leaves a place of employment, there needs to be an opportunity for the rest of the staff to say goodbye and to say thank you, and then that person feels valued, but the rest of the team also knows that if something happens to them, they will be valued, they will be respected, and it also acknowledges that the rest of the team that's left there may be grieving because they are saying goodbye to somebody who's been part of their team, who is part of the structure, and there's always grief when people leave. Sometimes there's relief because that person wasn't a great fit, but it's always an impact on there will always be some tension and stress associated with somebody leaving, because if that person's no longer there, then that could happen to them, particularly if they were sacked or moved out of the business. So it creates a stress in the workplace, particularly if they start to feel a bit more vulnerable. So you say goodbye, you say farewell, you share the love, you thank people for their contribution, you nurture them out of the business, and you nurture the people that are left to feel confident and safe in the workplace, knowing that at the end of the day, this is an organisation that looks after people. And then when you have that, when you've got a team that feels valued and respected and appreciated, then you've got a loyal tribe of people who will be really keen to do work for you and to do a good job, because they know that they're going to get it back in bucket loads. And it's not just their wages, they'll get it back because they work in an environment that feels safe and supportive. I just think it's crucial. So I think that exit interviews can be fraught, but I think that if you do them well, they can be so incredibly valuable, because they will be able to give you some information back, but also you get an opportunity to look after that person when they go. Brett, you've just come on. Do you have any comments on exit interviews? Do you have anything that you'd want to share? It's a really important issue. We live in an environment where there's regularly people being made redundant and moved on, and I think that the fear and unsettling, I'm trying to think, is that the right word? Unsettling of people can be really huge, and that has a significant impact on the rest of the team that's left to pick up the pieces. Somebody I know just recently had their team decimated. They lost more than 10% of all of their team due to redundancies, and they did it really carefully. So they did it very slowly. So they didn't have everybody leave on the same date. They left over a period of time, and they made sure that they had a special event for everybody who was leaving, who wanted to work, and there was a lot of grief, but they just kept on. Every time somebody left, they'd reposition themselves. We're still the team. And they made sure that everybody felt safe going forward. And I think that's how we need to do it. If somebody leaves, let's look after them. All right, well, look, that's my views on exit interviews. I think they're crucial. I think we need to do them well. If you've got any other comments, please let me know. Let's talk about this. I think it's a really important part of looking after people and reducing conflict in the workplace and creating teams that thrive. All right, catch you later, everybody. Cheers.